Right now, you are breathing without thinking about it. In, out, easy, free. There's air all around you, gentle pressure on your skin, the perfect temperature. You will never once stop to thank the sky for keeping you alive. But 400 kilometers up, the only thing between a person and instant death is a wall thinner than a soda can. Space is not just empty, space is hostile. It has dozens of ways to end you, and most of them are fast, silent, and absolutely horrifying. So what are the worst ways to die in space, and how close have real astronauts actually come? I'm going to walk you through them one by one, and the last one already happened. 3 men, 1971. Stay with me, because this changes how you see your own next breath. Let's start with the most famous killer, the vacuum itself. Forget what movies told you. You do not freeze instantly. You do not explode. The truth is stranger and somehow worse. With no air pressure outside your body, the moisture on your tongue and eyes starts to boil away. Not because it's hot, but because there's no pressure to hold it as liquid. Your body swells as gases expand under your skin. Not popping, just puffing up like a balloon. But here's the real killer, and it's faster than all of that. The instant the pressure drops, the air rushes out of your lungs whether you want it to or not. Try to hold your breath and your lungs tear apart, so your body empties them for you. Then your brain, starved of oxygen, gives you about 15 seconds of useful consciousness. 15 seconds. That's all you get to fix the worst mistake of your life. And in 1965, one NASA technician found that out for real, here on Earth. His suit sprang a leak inside a vacuum chamber. He passed out in 14 seconds. They repressurized the chamber and saved him. His last memory? The water on his tongue boiling. Now make it worse. What if the air leaves not in seconds but in an instant? This is explosive decompression. A tiny hole, and the whole cabin's air screams out into the void. It's the difference between a slow leak and a popped balloon. And in 1971, this didn't happen in a test. It happened to 3 men coming home. Their names were Dobrovolsky, Volkov, and Patsayev. The crew of Soyuz 11. They had just spent 23 days in space, a world record. They were heroes, heading home. As their capsule separated for re-entry, a tiny valve jolted open. A valve the size of a coin. The cabin air began rushing out into space. And these cosmonauts were not wearing pressure suits. There simply wasn't room in the capsule for all 3 to wear them. They had less than a minute. They tried to find the leak and seal it by hand, but the hiss was hidden behind their seats in a place they could not reach in time. When the capsule landed softly in Kazakhstan, the recovery team rushed to open the hatch. Inside, all 3 men sat strapped in their seats, looking peaceful. But they were already gone. They are the only humans to ever die in space itself, above the line where the sky ends. After that, every crew flew in pressure suits. Their deaths made every astronaut after them safer. Okay, let's say you survive inside the ship. The next horror waits outside it. Picture this. You're on a spacewalk. Just you, your suit, and the entire universe. The only thing connecting you to everything you've ever known is a single thin tether. Now imagine that tether snaps. There is no air to swim through, no wall to push off, nothing to grab. You are now a tiny moon, drifting away from your ship at the speed you last moved. And in space, you keep that speed forever. There is no friction to slow you down. You would float, fully awake, watching your ship shrink to a dot until your oxygen ran out. Hours of perfect, silent awareness, with nothing to do but wait. It sounds made up, but NASA took it so seriously they built a jetpack just for this nightmare. It's called Safer, a backpack of tiny thrusters that lets a drifting astronaut fly back to safety. Every spacewalker since 1994 has worn one, because floating away is that real. But you don't even need to leave the ship to get hit. Space is full of tiny bullets. They're called micrometeorites. Specks of rock and metal smaller than a grain of sand. Harmless, right? Except they travel up to 10 times faster than a rifle bullet. At that speed, a fleck of paint hits with the force of a bowling ball. A piece the size of a marble could punch clean through the station wall. And if it hits you, the suit, the helmet, even bone, it goes right through. This isn't a maybe. The space station gets hit constantly. Its windows are pitted with tiny craters. One crack came from a paint fleck just thousandths of an inch wide. To survive, the station hides behind a clever trick called a Whipple shield. A thin outer layer shatters the incoming speck into harmless dust before it reaches the real wall. It's brilliant, but it isn't perfect, and astronauts know that every single day. Now for the killer you can't see, can't feel, and can't outrun. Radiation. On Earth, you're protected by 2 invisible shields, our atmosphere and our magnetic field. They deflect most of the deadly radiation from the sun and from deep space. Astronauts on the station get a little help from that magnetic field. Out beyond it, there's nothing. Up there, you're constantly pelted by cosmic rays, particles fired from exploding stars. Here's the eerie part. Astronauts see flashes of light, even with their eyes shut. Those flashes are cosmic rays passing straight through their eyeballs and into their brains. Each one is a tiny scar, a microscopic bullet through living tissue. A single big solar storm could deliver a fatal dose in hours. Slow poison or sudden death. Quick question for you. Could you handle that? Years of an invisible thing slowly damaging your body? Tell me in the comments. And subscribe, because the next way to die is the one NASA fears most. Fire. On Earth, you run from a fire. In space, the fire has you trapped in a metal box. And in weightlessness, fire doesn't even behave like fire. It curls into a slow glowing ball and can spread in any direction, even sideways. But the flame isn't even the deadliest part. The real killer is the smoke. With no up for it to rise into, toxic smoke just spreads everywhere, filling the whole cabin at once. It happened for real in 1997 aboard the Russian station Mir. An oxygen-making canister failed and erupted into a meter-long blowtorch of flame. 6 crew members, thick, choking smoke, and the fire blocked the path to one of their escape ships. For 14 terrifying minutes they fought the blaze, breathing through masks in the dark. They survived, barely. But for those 14 minutes, a single canister held 6 lives in its hands. Let's say you survive all of it. The vacuum, the drift, the radiation, the fire. There's still one more enemy to beat. And it's the trip home. To land, a spacecraft has to slow down from 25 times the speed of sound. All that speed turns into ferocious heat as it slams into the air. 3,000 degrees. The whole ship is wrapped in a fireball hotter than molten lava. The only thing keeping the crew alive is a thin layer of heat shield tiles. And on February 1st, 2003, that shield failed. The Space Shuttle Columbia was coming home with 7 astronauts after 16 days in orbit. At launch, a piece of foam had struck the wing, leaving a small hole no one knew was fatal. During re-entry, superheated plasma poured into that hole and ate the wing from inside. The shuttle broke apart over Texas just 16 minutes from home. All 7 were lost. So close to the runway their families were already waiting at. It proved the most dangerous moments of any mission are the very first and the very last. Now let's talk about 2 enemies that work in pure silence: pressure and temperature. Your body is built for the pressure of 1 atmosphere. The weight of air at sea level. Go too low, like in a vacuum, and your body swells and your fluids boil, as we saw. But push pressure too high on a place like Venus, and it crushes you flat in an instant. Then there's temperature. And in space, it swings to insane extremes. In direct sunlight, a surface can roast at over 120 degrees Celsius. Spin into the shadow, and that same surface plunges to 100 below freezing. 250 degrees of difference on the same wall in minutes. A spacesuit is really a tiny spaceship, fighting both the crush of vacuum and that brutal heat swing. If it fails, you face both at once, crushed by nothing and burned and frozen by everything. And here's the cruelest part. Even if nothing goes wrong, space is still trying to kill you. Slowly, quietly, just from being weightless. Your body thinks it doesn't need its bones anymore, so it starts dissolving them. Astronauts can lose over 1% of their bone mass every single month. Their muscles waste away. Their hearts, with less work to do, actually start to shrink. Fluid floats up into their heads, squashing their eyeballs and blurring their vision. Some astronauts come home unable to see clearly, with changes that may never fully reverse. Space doesn't need an accident to hurt you. It does it just by you being there. Every day in orbit is a small, slow battle your body is quietly losing. So after all of this, you have to ask, why does anyone go up there at all? Vacuum, radiation, fire drifting away, your own body breaking down. The list is endless, and yet thousands of people would trade anything for a single seat on that rocket. Because every astronaut who has flown says the same impossible thing. When you finally see the whole Earth from above, hanging alone in the black, every danger you just learned about suddenly feels worth it. They describe a feeling so powerful it has a name. The overview effect. A profound shift where borders vanish and the whole planet looks like one fragile living home. They risk every horror on this list for one look at how small and precious we all really are. So here is what I want you to do right now. Take one slow, deep breath. Feel the air fill your lungs. Feel its gentle pressure. Feel how warm and easy it is. That breath is the single most precious thing you own, and you got it for free. 400 kilometers up, that same breath costs millions and can vanish in 15 seconds. Up there, the vacuum waits to boil it away. A speck of dust waits to punch through it. Radiation waits to poison it. Fire waits to choke it. The cold waits to freeze it. Space is the most hostile place humans have ever dared to go. And the astronauts who go there are not fearless. They simply decided the view was worth the risk. Soyuz 11, Apollo 1, Columbia, Mir. We remember them not for how they died, but for how bravely they reached for something bigger than themselves. So tonight, when you take your safe, easy breath in your own warm bed, give a small, quiet thanks to the thin blue air that asks for nothing and keeps you alive anyway. Next time, I'll show you what actually happens to a human body left exposed on the surface of Mars, and it is not what the movies tell you.